Welcome to the 145 Rural Podcast, where we are here to strengthen music careers and communities one song at a time. And now, here's your host, Jacob Wing. Yay!
Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I am so lucky to have Mr. Logan Foret with us. He is a staple in our community. He has done many great things, and we're going to focus on just a part of what he does today, but I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm stoked to be here.
Great to have you. That was a horrible handshake. That's on me. But let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
Just for the people that maybe aren't aware of who you are, what you're doing, let's start with your story. So however you want to tell it, from where you began to where you are now, tell us about Logan. Yeah, I know that's a lot to take on.
No, I mean, it's always kind of a loaded question, like one of those things like, what's your favorite song? Who's your favorite musician?
Yeah, well, how long you got?
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe we'll broad stroke stuff here to get into it, I guess. I left home when I was really young. I had I was a prick as a young kid.
Oh, yep.
And left home and ended up out in West Virginia. Prior to West Virginia, I was playing in some small jam bands in high school and things like that. And I was a really big jam kid, String Cheese Incident, Sound Tribe, Widespread Panic, Particle, all that kind of stuff. Left home and really started the program I ended up in out in West Virginia. I really dove pretty deep into traditional West African music.
Okay.
And so I was carving drums under a really famous drummer named Mama Dakita. And so that sort of started to really takes its route in my sort of influence in sort of world music, and a lot of people don't realize that given what I book in the music I'm involved with today. But went from there, ended up in Arizona, did a couple years of school down there, and that's really where I started to learn and flourish and get into more traditional music and playing pop and funk. My teacher there was absolutely a phenomenal bass player and really started to wrangle me in sort of the direction and humbled me in a lot of ways. It was an amazing experience. I was looking at going to a lot of traditional programs and applied to a bunch of non-traditional stuff. I was looking at going to like Savannah College of Art and Design for sound design.
Oh, wow.
I was looking at going to Berkeley out in Boston for music. But all said and done, I ended up coming to Montana. All these schools, these amazing music schools I was looking at, between Boston and Savannah, Georgia and LA, were all in these like giant, big, beautiful cities. But I was so used to, at this point, from living in West Virginia to Sedona, Arizona, I was used to mountainscapes and outdoors. And that ended up speaking to me a lot more. So I ended up coming to college here at University of Montana and studied recreational management and tourism. So my background's actually in ecotourism that I haven't done shit with. But I mean, we all have that.
Oh yeah, we all. Yeah,
anybody that's gone to college, like I didn't do shit with it. While I was in college, funny enough, out of Missoula, there was a band, Signal Path. And Signal Path was a band that I had seen at a number of jam music festivals over the years. I didn't know until I came to school that they were from Missoula. And as I came in, they were sort of on their way out. They were moving to Colorado. Damon Metzner, who was the drummer for that band, was the big promoter in Missoula at the time, doing things like the Halloween Barn Burner, and was promoting shows at the Other Side and the Loft and Jay's Upstairs.
Oh, that's a throwback, yeah.
Right? A lot of venues I used to get kicked out of as I was a kid. As they left, there was this massive void in music, especially in jam and electronic music that I was really starting to dive into. I had recently purchased a Roland SPDS drum pad.
Okay.
And I happened to be walking down a sidewalk one day, and this random kid from a porch, Timothy Heitman, like yelled at me, saw this pad, And we ended up hitting it off and starting our first, I joined a band that he had at the time called E-Team. And that was a trio sort of electronic hip hop thing, him on drums, me on hand percussion, pads. And then our producer, Connie Robinson, he ran all of our stems and our tracking and everything like that. It was this really weird sort of way ahead of its time project
cool.
for being in like 2008.
Yeah, that sounds like something very modern. Yes, cool.
Yeah. And then that spawned into a bunch of different other projects. I really, Tim and I, Connie moved back to Minneapolis. Tim and I started a DJ project called Ebola Syndrome. We had a drum and bass project called Box Elder. I was managing a band called Kung Fu Congress, which then eventually evolved into Shakewell. A lot of those same members.
Wow, those guys are amazing. Yeah,
and some of those guys that were in the original band, they've moved on and they've done amazing things. And Shakewell, anybody that knows them, is absolutely just phenomenal. Then I had one more project called Tall Tale Medicine Machine. It was an 18-piece orchestral project that we only played 3 shows.
Wow.
We were one of the headliners at Love Your Mother Earth one year. We played at the university for the music school. And then we played at the Top Hat, I think actually opening for Kung Fu Congress. And it was this big, giant, beautiful project, sort of like Radiohead meets Bjork with like a hip-hop influence thing on it. And I'm one of the few, me and Tim were the only musicians in the band that were not like traditionally trained musicians.
Right.
Everybody else is from the music school. The whole project's on sheet music. And Tim and I are just like, let's fucking figure it out. Eventually Tim moved away. A lot of those musicians moved away. And during that process of starting these bands or these groups, like, again, there's this void of shows going on. And so early on, the first show I ever threw was in conjunction with my sister company, Scoremore, that is based out of Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And my buddy Sasha that I went to high school with in Arizona, he was just getting into promoting down there. And he's like, hey, I'm doing Afro Man, like in Texas. Do you want to do it in Montana? And that was the first show I ever did. And being a young, 19-some-year-old kid, and it was an amazing first show to do. I think I sold like 650 tickets, something like that.
Yeah, for a first show. Wow.
Yeah, but then like for me being like, I'm like, I just made $1,000. Like I can do this. I can throw parties for a living. I'm like, holy shit, that's not how it goes.
No.
That's not how it goes, and it really messed with me early on. But from there, it created this opportunity for me to be able to bring shows and for me to have an outlet for the projects I was involved with and my friends were involved with, to be able to, go play shows and be involved, with some amazing artists early on, back then working with members of the Glitch Mob, working with Bass Nectar, even though that's a 4-letter word now.
Right.
Working with, I got to open up for Atmosphere. I opened up for Crystal Method. I opened
kidding me?
I opened up for the Whalers. The list goes on and on and on. Prefuse 73, who's one of the most, prolific hip hop artists or hip hop producers, in my opinion. Got to work with Peanut Butter Wolf, who owns Stone's Throw Records. Those were like the early years, and then it sort of evolved, and we were doing stuff at the Top Hat, and then later moved over to the Badlander. We were doing stuff at Stage 112. It got to the point like my schedule and like memory stuff pops up every once in a while. Between Missoula and Bozeman, we were doing like Friday, Saturday every weekend, and then sometimes doing midweek stuff. And it, between 4 different projects that we were either performing in or promoting.
That's a lot of candles.
Oh, it was wild. I mean, back then, we were involved with at least like 12 to 15 shows a month as these young kids. It was a lot of fun. We were still broke as shit, right. But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot early on, and then later evolved, and I became the booking manager at the Badlander Palace Complex, and so 7 days a week was doing programming between 2 different rooms, and really started to wrap my head around different sort of offer styles, and really started to branch out and be able to work with different agencies across the board and get a better understanding of, my P's and Q's and really how to do it. And I had a lot of direction from, early mentors, Chris Henry, who was one of the original owners of the Badlander and who currently still owns Ear Candy, Sean Lynch, who owns 1111 Entertainment,
right.
and Pub Station in Billings. Sean is still a mentor of mine. Colin Hickey, who was the first talent buyer at the Badlander complex, and he later moved on to the Downtown Association, and then VidCon. Now he's the big boy over at VidCon, working with Hank and John Green. And so all those guys still to this day are huge influences. If I have a question, if I'm in a bind, like there's generally something that I can still ask them, especially Sean. Sean is still very much in the entertainment industry, owning his venue down there. And then later detached from the Badlander, long story short, and started doing stuff more independently around town, doing stuff at Monks, and then Stage 112. Mm-hmm. During that process, even prior to then, like the story's so scattered.
Right. Still.
Disco Bloodbath evolved, when we were really young, and, there was this void. Barn burners weren't happening anymore. We developed and started producing Disco Bloodbath, and we're expecting 400, 500 people to show up, and 2,000 people showed up that we could fit in the building, and then had to turn away another 3,000. So wildly illegal, no permits. I'm literally performing on stage on top of a 2-story scaffolding as the building is sweating, and somebody comes up and whispers in my ear, they're like, they broke the barricade. Literally the front door to get in the venue had been smashed in as I'm on stage. And at that point, what do we do?
Yeah.
Fuck it, turn it up. And from dozens of different festivals to club shows, and then expanding out into all kinds of different things from, runway shows to I designed Winter Brew Fest for the city of Missoula. It's been such a wild scope of things that I've had an amazing opportunity to do, and wouldn't have been able to do so without the support of the Missoula community and beyond. So I'm really grateful for the journey that I've had, and I don't really perform so much these days. It's been really years since I was involved with the project. It's really come down to promoting and sort of community outreach, and this is just one of the paths of my life. There's a lot of other random things.
Well, I was gonna say, at some point you transitioned to be almost entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Was there a certain click that I want to start going this direction, or just kind of fell into it? How'd that work out?
Early on, I think once I just started down this path, I'm such a hard-headed piece of shit that anytime I've ever had a boss, which has been very few times, I always know better than them, right?
Right.
I always had told myself, I was never going to work a traditional 9 to 5, and for better or for worse, I'm constantly working. In this short interview that we're going to do, when I turn my phone back on, it's going to be an explosion of emails, texts, this, that, the other, from whatever project I have going. So I'm always working. But the thing is, at the end of the day, knowing that the thing that I'm building and I'm creating with my teams is something that I have this level of, control of, that I'm building this for myself and the people surrounding me, and I'm not building it for somebody else that doesn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of the bottom of the barrel. I don't know. There's just something that's always resonated with me about I don't want to sound like a fucking douche by saying this, but being able to have the ability to write my own checks.
No, it's something versus something in your hand that you can visibly see versus I'm a number to somebody. And I think you're exactly nailing it. That's what we're all after, I believe. So.
Yeah. And it's a hard road. I was listening to some other podcast the other day, about entrepreneurs, and this dude was like, man, he's like, being an entrepreneur, you just get kicked in the nuts again and again and again and again. And then, you get a glimmer of hope and you're like, oh, there it is. Mm-hmm. And you get that hope, and then you get kicked in the nuts again and again and again. Mm-hmm. I think so many people romanticize about, you know, the initial conversation. Like, I don't really know how to tell people like what it is that I do. Like, it's a weird catch-all fucking question for me.
Right.
And I'm like, I am a music promoter. I design music festivals and I own a venue. And they're like, oh my God, like that's the coolest job ever. But they don't see the days and the weeks and the years of, you know, I've lost money more times than I can fucking count on shows, man. That's why I say this, the initial like show of like, oh my God, $1,000. It is such a rarity. You know, the model of being an independent promoter is, it is not sustainable.
Right.
And, you know, that's really led me to where I am today. You know, but throughout that process, like I've gotten to work with so many amazing artists and have so many different connections, you know, and still to think back about, you know, some of the people that I've been able to, you know, sit in a room like this and have some great conversations about, you know, music and creativity and entrepreneurship. You know, I'm so blessed and I'm so grateful, and I wouldn't change anything about it, you know, and getting kicked in the nuts that many times has hardened me.
Well, just like I said, the people, and then just mentioning the system that you have, like the people you have beneath you to rely on to turn back. Yeah, that's
with my side,
right?
Never beneath, always
of
on my
course,
side,
but
always on my side.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
I appreciate it, man.
So the reason I was really interested is that you happen to have purchased that venue, the Rustic Hut, which is just a couple miles down the road from our studio.
Yeah, and
I could not believe, I had to check 3 times, and I saw the post go live that you had taken over, and like, no way. And it, even just from the beginning, the groups you're bringing in, the activity, just in our very small community here, we're just outside of Missoula, but it's a small community, and just the activity you brought, everything is just took everything. We're so grateful for that, and what you're doing just in the beginning.
I appreciate it.
Unbelievable. But what brought you into taking on that?
Yeah. The amount of projects that I've done over the years, you know, like I'm the first person to tell you that like I'm a master of nothing. I'm good at a lot of shit. Like I'm a pretty good talent buyer. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. But I'm a master of none of them. The amount of shows and festivals that I have under my belt, it's a little over 2,000. I think.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible.
It is, but at the same time, you know, I'm at the point in my life, you know, where I'm the first person to tell you I'm tired, man. I'm really tired.
I bet.
You know, it was at the point a couple years ago where I was doing around 9 music festivals or 9 large scale events a year, and you know, you look at all these silly polls from BuzzFeed and all these weird articles about like the top 5 most stressful jobs, and it's like, you know, being a police officer and a fireman and military, and then an event coordinator, and you're like, what the fuck, you know? But until you do it,
it's there for a reason.
It's there for a reason, you know, and I'm at the point where I'm being much more selective about the large scale stuff that I'm involved with, and you know, Bloodbath is on hiatus. Socotra Music Festival is on hiatus. DAP Music Conference I haven't done for a few years. I stepped away from Northwest Margarita Fest and Barbecue Whiskey Fest. I stepped away from Lager Days at the Jack Saloon. You know, I'm not really involved with a handful of other projects at this point. You know, I'm at the point where if I'm going to do it, you know, outside of monetary gain, it has to be something that really speaks to me, and it has to be something that, you know, really has a community impact. And that's where, you know, the main festival I'm focusing on right now is Missoula Pride. And then we're moving in the second year of the Hip Strip Block Party, which used to have a massive presence in Missoula. Last year was the first year we revived it for the 50th anniversary of hip hop last year. And I have an amazing group of hip hop artists that I'm really trying to take under my wing and pass the torch. And that really means a great deal to me. Like I'm not going to do this forever.
Right.
And when I'm gone as an independent promoter for this large scale stuff, like there's really not many people around left in the state that do this independently full time. You know, there's some people that, you know, do some shows here and there. And, you know, there are a handful of amazing club promoters. But as far as the large scale stuff, like, it's a pretty big jump to understanding, you know, just the permitting process alone took years to figure out and really who to be talking to and whose hand needs to be shaken to make sure
what
this
wheel
thing
needs grease. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so I've been looking for my next thing, and I know I wanted it to be a brick and mortar concept, because all the things that I build, as amazing as they are, they're transient. They come and then they go.
Right.
And there's something beautiful about that, in that, like, when I design, a festival, like, I can see, the end goal of my product, and I can see thousands of people in front of me enjoying this thing that our teams have created, and it's something so tangible and so special and palpable about that. But then it's gone.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, well, I guess let's start the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And I don't think a lot of people realize that there's this feeling, and again, until you do it, of sort of like this like postpartum depression that happens after the event, the day afterward, when you're sitting there staring at the fucking ceiling, and you had this massive adrenaline and dopamine going through you as you're running around crazy, dealing with a billion different fires and all this energy and angst that's come together. And then the next day, it's like it just plummets, and there's no like closure. It's just gone. And it's a really difficult thing to describe. That's really the best way I can put it. You don't typically have a closing party for a festival. You don't have this, you don't have that.
I think as musicians here, like after that big show or releasing an album, it's always like, what's next? That very next day, that's great. What's next? Yeah,
exactly.
But it never to that degree. That's a huge up.
And so again, like it's this funny thing. Like people are, what do you do? It's like, well, technically I'm a professional gambler. Like,
right.
Because again, like I've done so many of these things, and some of them work out great. A lot of them don't. We live in an environment, quite literally, that like it could snow, it could rain in fucking July, and you're shit out of luck.
Right.
And it's happened to me. So I knew that I wanted a brick and mortar. I knew I wanted something to build. I knew I wanted something that I could really sink my teeth into, that wasn't about that peak and valley. It was about a slower burn, that I could look at the timeline of like, okay, this month we're working on this, next month that, next year this, over the next couple of years that. Okay. And I was introduced to my business partner at the Rustic Hut, Jason. He purchased the place in 2019. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and sat down. He's like, hey, I'm looking for a booking guy / marketing. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. But, again, like, if I'm going to be involved with something and I'm going to help build something, I have to have equity in it. Okay. And so we worked out, a sweat equity situation. And then my production company as well, BFK Presents, we bought in another percentage. So it worked out amazingly, because, myself and my other business partners with BFK, we were trying to find this thing. What is our next project? We didn't want to invest into a festival. We wanted something that was a tangible brick and mortar project that, they had faith in me to go build for us. So that happened. We solidified everything May of 2023. And then I really had to get through my few festivals that I had last summer. Right. And, so basically end of July, August, started doing some of our initial renovations on the stage.
And then, was that you, or was that everybody involved? Who had the just? Yeah. If you guys get a chance, please go take a look at that Instagram. Take a look at the backdrop you guys designed.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh, just iconic. Instantly, Thanks. Now if a show is happening in a good place. Like you see that backdrop of the Rustic Hut.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
No, you're totally fine.
It's beautiful.
You're totally fine. No, I mean that influence came from an old project that I had with my buddy Dave Boyce, Boyce Lumber. Him and I were working on high frequency diffusers for a while. Okay. And so if you look at the stage and like these log rounds, at first it just looks like a flat wall, but if you actually go to the side, it looks like a scattered sort of cityscape. So I brought in my buddy Dave, who's an amazing carpenter, and I was like, I got this weird idea for this design. And so basically down here in the Bitterroot, found somebody that has a lodgepole fencing company. And we just sliced up all these pucks, threw them up there.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
And the audio engineer me just fangirling. It's like, oh my goodness.
And we still have some sound treatment stuff we're going to do above the drums and everything like that. But I knew that the first initial sort of like impact that I wanted to have on the space was the stage. I knew that in order to bring in, a higher caliber of artists and a higher caliber of show was about consistency. That's my thing. Prior to that in the space, bands were bringing in their own sound systems, and that's amazing. But you go in for one band, you're like, oh, this sounds good. You go in for the net band next week, you're like, oh, this sounds really bad. And so brought in Montana Pro Audio, who I've been working with for 10 plus years now. They're my go-to on anything sound and lights.
Top notch.
Yeah. And so I had this concept, and that's what we developed out on top of, the stage design. And it might not look like a big rig. It's this awesome little quaint RCF rig, but it's perfect for the room. And the system itself is so beautifully intelligent. Like everything I try and do in there when it comes to production, I've tried to make it monkey proof. Like I'm not always going to be there. My sound engineer is not always going to be there, but my bartenders can literally go in, and there's a little iPad behind the bar that they can go turn stage on, turn lights on, turn Spotify on, and the whole thing powers up and has limiters set on it. So they can't go in the back end and try and turn the volume besides the capacity that I've set it at. So they can do everything they need to do.
That is so beautiful.
When my trivia host comes in, they can literally say trivia. The screen drops down, the projector turns on, the microphone turns on.
You're a wizard. That is amazing.
It was Montana Pro Audio that really was like, this is what we can do. And so again, the system might not look like this big, beautiful thing, but it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. But it might not look like a giant system, but it's so intelligent in what this rig can do, in the brain that we put behind it, and now we can build upon that brain. So next step, we're trying to put some speakers in the front of the venue as like satellites with some time delays and everything like that, so that, speaking engagements, you can really hear without. The main stage doesn't have to be that much louder, blah, 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 blah. So we did that, and then rebuilt the kitchen, new menu, a lot of new staffing. Now we're really starting to rock and roll. So that was end of September that we sort of did our pseudo relaunch of the stage.
Right.
Now we're going, man.
Yeah, you guys have had some big names already, and it's just been a short time. Like Timber Rattlers for one. That was a huge show. Yeah. There's so many great ones. Yeah. Tanner Laws, of course. Yeah. Jaden Decker, I believe. I'm not sure if he had this last week or it's coming.
Jaden's this Friday.
That's exciting. He's a big name.
I've been working with Jaden and his dad for
Clint,
a while now. I've known Clint for a hot minute, and Jaden's performed on a bunch of different stages with me. At a barbecue fest. At Lager Days, a handful of other things, and I'm so stoked to see this kid flourish. And he's
built for it.
He really is. The kid is a prodigy.
Oh yeah.
So Friday.
Yeah, do go see that, please. I will be there. We can shake hands. Look for us. It's great. It's gonna be amazing.
Awesome.
Hi there, and welcome to the ad break. We're just going to take a moment to let everybody know about our community of growing members, and if you'd like to be a part of that, just look at the info below, and there will be a click there for an email sign-up to join in and get your voice heard. As well, if you're enjoying this content, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/145rural. There you can join any of our groups, and you can add to the discussion of what topics we will choose that will help you and hopefully future members of our groups, as well as join monthly Q&As and other such benefits. Again, that's patreon.com/145rural, and we look forward to seeing you there. Now, back to that regularly scheduled episode, and enjoy that content. Thanks again.
So we go from that. You've got this great facility now. You've got all the names coming. Basically, you're about a year and a half, roughly into this. What has been your biggest challenge so far?
So May will be a year.
May, okay, so we're coming up a year.
But realistically, July is really where I was able to sink my teeth in and get going.
Gotcha.
Man, the challenge is, it's coming into this project, you know, and you'll see in some of the interviews that I did with like the newspapers and stuff like that, like my concern, and I know that the community's concerned, that I was going to come in and like gentrify the whole thing and just slap this up and beers go from this much to this much. And I was just going to fuck up the whole culture that was going on there. This place has been there for 50 years. Mm-hmm. You know, this place was established as a disco in 73, and you can still see that on the dance floor with the original lighting.
Yep.
It's got carpet,
the carpet on the ceiling.
Carpet on the ceiling.
It's iconic.
Yeah. And like, I've been literally sent death threats from people I don't know. Somebody was like, I will stab you in your sleep if you take the carpet down. I'm like, I'm sorry, Diana, but I promise I'm not going to take the carpet down. I promise. You know, there's been a few just like devious messages about the carpet.
I believe it.
Every person I run into, are you going to take the carpet down? No, I'm not going to take the damn carpet down. I'm leaning into it, if anything.
Right.
So I would say the biggest thing initially, and it's gone smooth, is, you know, it's a matter of chipping away. You know, I'm not trying to come in there and totally shake, you know, the bee's nest and make the community angry. You know, I want them to see what this place can be and get it back to maybe what it was decades ago. Mm-hmm. From what people have told me that have grown up in the valley, that have been going there since they were kids. They're like, man, you used to have to park blocks away. Like, this place was the roadhouse. Mm-hmm. You know, and even down to the genres in there. You know, it started as a disco. Yep. Now it's predominantly for a while been a country roadhouse.
Straight up. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But there are other people in this community that want rock, want metal, want hip hop, want funk, want blues, want this, want that, the other. And so, you know, I know it was in some of our pre-questions about defining this balance of genres. And again, I think it's chipping away and introducing things that maybe have never had a presence in the valley.
Exactly. See who comes out of the woodwork.
Exactly. Yeah. And they might not be as big as the metal show. Or as the country show, but that doesn't mean that there's not a place for it there.
No, there definitely is.
And especially if we're going to expand our demographics and our psychographics about people that want to be able to come in and support this place, you know, I have to support them. Mm-hmm. You know, I have to support their needs and their wants in this community for entertainment. And so right now it's sort of experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't, and what can we pull off in there. And so, you know, right now the biggest challenge is not shaking the nest too much.
Makes sense. Just kind of let it happen naturally, kind of thing.
But you know, it took a while for me to be able to walk in my own bar and my patrons not stare at me.
Right.
Like I'm not our usual clientele. No, and again, it's changing. It's changing, but to get stared at when you walk in your own business, you're like, oh, shit, okay. Oh, man.
Well, let's flip that on its head then and talk about, as you're coming up on your year anniversary here.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest win?
Yeah. There's been, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not fucking stupid. You know, I'm a very outspoken person. I know what I want. And I truly believe that I have a very good idea of what this community wants from the conversations that I've had. Mm-hmm. You know, from the messages I've received, from, you know, the hands I've shaken in the bar. And, you know, there's some nights that, you know, you sit there and you're like, am I going the right direction here? Are we doing the right thing? And there's been a few people so far that have walked up to me that I don't know. I don't know these people. They've literally come up and they'll be like, are you Logan? I'm like, yes. And they'll shake my hand. They'll go in for a hug. And they'll literally to my face say, thanks for saving our bar.
Honestly, I believe it.
And like, that gets me at my fucking heartstrings, that like, and it reiterates that this isn't another just dive roadhouse. This isn't, you know, just some music venue. There's this concept that is so ingrained in, I think, what I'm trying to do here. If you're familiar with the Third Place, mm-hmm. you know, and for anybody that's not, you know, we have two places in our lives. Typically, we have our home. Mm-hmm. That's place one. We have work. That's place two. And in some communities, you have your third place. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a coffee shop. Maybe that's a bookstore. Maybe that's a bar. Maybe that's this, that, and the other. And coming from Missoula, I can't think of many places in Missoula that really are activated as a third place.
Yeah, great. It's a great point. Yeah, so it's so spread evenly. Yeah.
And
different groups, different things. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's become so prevalent that this place is not just a bar. It's not just a restaurant. It's not just a casino. It's not, just a music venue. Like this place means so much to this community, that grew up there, and new people coming in or people coming back that moved away for a while, and seeing the impact that this place can have and has had. It's really special, man.
You have nailed it. Because I mean, just being a part of this community and being able to speak on this, it's our new badge of honor. Have you seen the Rustica? Like, it is the first thing we mention now. Like, we are so proud of it and so amazed by what's going on there.
I love that.
It is our badge of honor now.
I love that, man.
I mean, not just third place. It is. Have you seen it? Have you seen it yet? I mean, it is good.
So yeah, man. I mean, again, like, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't agree with what I'm doing. I know even when the stage was going up, we liked it better than before. I'm like, you really like the weird bloppy piece of fabric that was falling down covered in, rust and this, that. And
There's always those.
But at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to make everybody happy. And I had to come to terms with that a long time ago. It's very clearly proving to be, a special place, and people are coming back, man.
No, you're doing great things, and we just want to tell you as a community that we're behind you.
Appreciate you.
We want to see you succeed.
Thank you.
Let's just switch it a bit here. Like, this show here is really geared towards newer musicians and beginning musicians, those people that are on that cusp of, I've been in the bedroom a long time, I'm good, but I want to get out there.
Yeah.
And I think you're one of the best people that we could possibly speak to on this. And let's just start from the beginning on that. How do you start picking your talent?
Yeah.
When you start booking?
Do we want to talk about talent in general or the hut in specific, I guess?
Let's talk about the hut specific and work from there. See what happens.
So the hut being this sort of chipping away and figuring out what works there, what doesn't. Mm-hmm. This place is a dance hall. People want to come there to dance. And to be selfish, if they're dancing, they are there, having a better time, spending longer. That means I have more people in the building, and financially makes it more sustainable for me as a business.
Makes sense, yeah.
Obviously. That being said, I've had so many amazing acoustic acts reach out, that are amazing singers, amazing solo acts, but they might not be danceable, right? And so that's where I try and get creative about, maybe it's an opening slot. Maybe they come in, perform for a half hour, 45 minutes. Or what we recently did last month was an open mic. And rather than just being a standard open mic, we operate it sort of as a pseudo contest.
Okay.
Bring out your people, have them vote for you, and the winner of it gets their own show. And so it's presenting an opportunity. I mean, the place was packed at our first open mic. It was awesome. I mean, the sign up started at like 6:00. All the slots were booked within like 3 to 5 minutes. And we saw some amazing acoustic stuff. We saw a couple great bands. We saw a couple trios. So it's this place in specific. It's been, a little bit of an experiment to figure out what works. But if you're reaching out to me for me even to take into consideration, putting you on anything, if you're reaching out to me with just a vague, and I do everything through email, and
gotcha, right, yep.
And because I have people call me and text me and Facebook me and Instagram me, I have to have everything.
I hear that a lot of booking agents are that way. Like, it's email or nothing.
Yeah, like I have too many things coming in that like I can't have communication across 20 platforms for one subject. Like I have to have it all filtered to one place. And so that'll be the first thing. It's like, okay, awesome, yeah, please email me. And someone, well, I don't have an email. It's like, get one. So if you're to reach out to me, what I'm looking for is information on you. I want a short little bio.
Gotcha.
I want to see or hear your music. How do I know? And you would be blown away by the amount of groups that reach out to me and they're like, well, I don't have any music like I can't, I don't have anything recorded. Even if it's a Facebook video that your mom recorded of you I don't care. I have to have something.
Right.
So I'm looking for, a bio. I want to know a little bit about you. Where are you from? What community are you with? How old are you? I want to hear your music, obviously. And then, the unfortunate part about promoting nowadays is social media.
It's numbers.
It is.
Yeah, it's a part of the game.
And I'm not necessarily looking for somebody, if you were to reach out to me and you've never played a show before, I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if I'm going to book you, that you're going to help me get the word out.
Of course, yeah. Right? It's a balance here.
Yeah. And so the bands, especially like Jaden Decker's a perfect example of this. He's an amazing self-promoter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He makes his own graphic designs for this stuff. He's making videos. He's doing that and this and the other. And I don't think people realize the impact that has when it comes to marketing. So if I'm going out on a limb and I'm risking this guarantee for an act to come into my place, like, I want to know that they're helping me. I want to know that there's this mutual understanding of like, yo, you're putting us on the stage. Like, we're going to make sure we're doing everything we can on our end to make sure our friends and our fans and our family shows up. And so when I'm asking for people's social media, I'm not trying to go on there and be like, oh shit, they've only got 100 followers. They've only got 20. I don't care.
Right.
If you're making any sort of effort to self-promote, that means so much to me. I'm not asking you to go out there and sling tickets for your own show, nothing like that. But
the difference between somebody who has that fire and can be a commodity and be a part of a team, versus I'm a dead weight, make me famous kind of person.
Exactly.
Right?
I want
promote me, please.
I'm so hungry for this stuff that like I'm gonna support the underdog who's hungry all day long.
Amen.
Before I support that person over there that's like, oh, we got 20,000 followers, but we don't post on our social media for you. Like you gotta cool. I'm gonna go with the underdog all day long. Like I'm gonna give that person the chance.
That is such useful stuff. And of course, we'll do a quick just link right here. We have the how to make your own EPK and bio, all those things that a promoter like yourself would want to hear. Go watch those if you need that information.
Yeah.
That always helps out.
Always make an EPK. Electronic press release, for those that don't know.
So from that, and we're talking about that, is there anything that helps anybody with if it's their first time, like you said, you try to find a space if they were the right person, if they had the right fire, in that EPK, something that they should have in there that might help them stand out from somebody else to give that I do have this fire kind of feel?
And the EPK thing, so the electronic press kits, when I sit down, a couple times a month with different musicians that are really trying to get their shit together, it's one of the first things I tell them to do. They're reaching out to other venues, they're reaching out to other promoters. I'm like, if I can have one place to see everything. This is your bio. This is your headshot. This is your band shot. There's an embedded video here. Like, if I can have a landing spot for everything, that's perfect.
And we've talked about that so much. Have one click for everything, and you're going to have so much more to work with. People are going to want to work with. They're going to, if they want more, make it them able to seek it out.
Exactly.
But it should be in one spot.
Exactly. Because if I've got to go, okay, I have to click the hyperlink that now is going to go to this, and then I have to click that. If I have to click 9 times just to hear your music, what the shit? Like, I don't know. No. Everything in one place. Even if it's one song or two right in that press kit, like, the more simplified, the more streamlined that you can do it is going to set you apart from the next person that didn't give anything, or the next person that made it that much more complicated to get to the source of all your stuff right there. And so if you can have all that stuff embedded, it is so crucial. When you see an agency reaching out, for me to book a show for them, whether it be on a festival or a club show, everything is in one spot, and that's how it should be. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So here's a great one that many people that are, again, in this beginning situation, trying to get from the bedroom to the stage, they don't understand, what am I supposed to have together? So I know this is really dumb, but how many minutes of show should they, how many songs should they have? What should they have prepared before they even start to think about this process?
I think this is so genre specific.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I work, I've worked with so many different punk rock and metal bands.
Good point. It's 2-minute songs.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. They're like, wait, you want us to play an hour? They're like, we got 20 minutes, man. But it's an understanding within those genres that They're typically not long sets.
Right.
So that's why when you see somebody generally book a heavy rock show or a metal show or a punk show, it's generally a stacked lineup.
Yeah, 4 or 5 bands. Yeah, of course.
And there's reasoning for that, you know, and it's so, you know, from the hip, you know, a lot of those sets, and I fucking love it. And that's what's so beautiful about punk music. But if I'm looking at somebody that's a full country band, if I'm looking at, you know, an acoustic act, if I'm looking at funk, pretty much any other genre besides punk rock and metal, you know, if you're not able to have, you know, at least like 45 minutes to an hour long for an opening set, you know, it makes it a lot more difficult to find positions to put people in, you know, and with us, we're a little bit different of a model in that because we're a roadhouse, you know, rather than, you know, a ticketed venue or something like that. Our sets are a little bit longer. Our music goes from typically 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. With a set break. And so in that circumstance, they need to have around at least 2 hours of music.
Makes sense.
But a lot of times, you know, it can, you know, when I have some acts come in, like, yeah, we can fill that time. But then I'm like, you guys just took 4 set breaks at 15, 20 minutes a pop. Like, you're killing me. Oh. And so that always ends up being a conversation we have to have afterwards. It's like, look, guys, paid you for this much time, but I only got this much time.
And this is great to hear from the horse's mouth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So like if you're going into your booking process, especially with somebody that's giving you a model like us, like the Union's another good model of that. You know, a bunch of venues up north in the Whitefish area, Bozeman's got a few, but like when it comes to that roadhouse model, it's like the night is yours, that stage is yours. Try and be very clear with your promoter or your buyer about like, okay, we can take a set break. Or can we take this many set breaks, or what is the, you know, the total allocated amount of time that we can take off stage? And I think that's really important. You know, besides that, making sure you go in, and there's plenty of bands that I work with that have been doing this for a long time that still don't know what this is. When I'm like, okay, you know, we're 30 days out, please send me over your input list and your stage plot.
Oh my God, right. Yes.
The amount of bands that like in their initial approach to me, like, we've been doing this 20 years and this and that. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, what's an input list? Like,
or stage spots when I always see him, like blank face, like what?
Yeah. But that's okay. You know, because I think a lot of people also approach roadhouses like us not thinking that there's going to be that level of technical engineering background. You know, my engineer, Dan Curry, who's in-house is a top tier, you know, and we really try and, you know, dot our I's, cross our T's. Like when he steps in, he needs to know exactly what instruments he's prepping for that night. You know, he wants to know everyone's name on that stage plot. Like that's how we keep a consistent rhythm rolling in there. I don't want him going in there not being prepared, you know, for what's about to come through the door, you know, from that trailer out back.
Right.
So really trying to develop yourself out a stage plot, an input list, so that when you're advancing, you have everything that you need. And that's even something you can include again with that EPK. Like
right.
Slap it in there. I don't care if it's all in one spot. Like that's
exactly.
Great.
Even better.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything on those, as you're getting these emails, besides just that, what you kind of wish you'd see more of that people would have, besides, you know, input list or a stage input? Anything on top of your head?
I don't know. Nothing really necessarily stands out, you know. You know, yesterday was a great example. I got an email from a band that used to play at the Hut at some point in time. I don't know when, I don't know how many shows. And it was just a very vague email, like, oh, we want to get back on the list and this and that. It's like, okay, send me over your music. And they're like, well, you can look us up on Facebook. It's this, and we think there might be some stuff on there. It's like, I'm not going to respond to that.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Like
I'm not doing your legwork.
No, it's just not going to happen. Like there's that when you know people are knocking on our door, you know, again, whether they be underdogs or people that, you know, are experienced musicians that are prepared and ready to go, they're bumping in the front of the line. Like you know, come ready.
right, exactly. Come ready to play. I love it. One of my big questions I have on here, and we may have already touched on all of this.
Yeah.
But as somebody as part of this community that, like I said, we want to see you succeed. Besides coming in, you know, being a Patreon.
Yeah.
What else can we do? Like, what else can other people out there reach out? What can they do to help to make sure that you do succeed?
This might sound just like so surface level and so easy, but given the history of this place, you know, it's been around for 50 years and it's ebbed and flowed throughout those years. And, you know, one of the first things I did going into this thing and was like, okay, let's check out Yelp. Let's check out Google reviews. Let's check out Facebook. Let's check out what the community currently thinks of this establishment. And it's all over the fucking place.
Right.
You know, besides coming in and being a patron and having a cocktail or a mocktail or food and coming to play games and you know, watching music, it might sound silly, but help us spread the word, you know, and help out. Look at those reviews. If you're like, man, I haven't actually given them a review. I'm following them on Facebook. I'm doing this and that. You know, it's years of bad habits that have been in that place. Some good habits, a lot of bad habits though, that, you know, have to be broken.
Right.
And have to be, you know,
change mindsets. That's tough.
Yeah. And, you know, that starts with, you know, it starts in house, but then it pushes out from there and perpetuates with the community, and the community really spreading the word that like, hey, like, have you been over there since this happened? Or have you been over there since there's some new staff, there's some new management? Have you tried the new food menu? And that word of mouth, especially in small communities like this, can make or break a business.
Okay.
I mean, it was just last week, right down the road, a giant multi-million-dollar bar that opened up, only survived 15 months.
Yep.
15 months.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And
it's all too common.
And it was a beautiful building. It was an absolutely beautiful place. And I don't really know what ended up being the downfall, but without that community support, you know, in-house and on socials and just talking and trying to come in support, these places won't survive.
Right.
I mean, that's when you're really going to see these types of buildings getting demoed and a Starbucks going up. Maybe you want a Starbucks in Florence. I don't know.
Well, I will go out of my way, of course, to have the links below to anything Logan has and the Rustic Hut. And of course, if I can find links to the Google reviews and the Yelp reviews, please take a couple minutes, give a great review, especially if you've been there. Find a way to support, get the word out, share. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, just as we're kind of starting to wind this up, is there anything you'd like to talk about you're doing, you know, in your life with business? What would you like to promote? What would you like to get the word out on?
You know, I earlier we talked about, you know, shaking the tree, shaking the nest, right? And I made a point early on when I stepped through those doors in my first initial meeting with my current staff at the time, and make a very, very prominent point about my patrons. They're like, well, what else do you do? What this and that and the other. And, you know, I told you that there's one festival for me that, you know, is so important right now, and that's Missoula Pride.
Okay.
You know, early on, like, you know, and still people are like, well, what other festivals you do, this and that? And like, I'm very proud, of being an ally to the LGBTQ community. And, unfortunately, you know, a lot of people maybe never interacted with somebody from the queer community.
Right.
You know, have never been around a person of color.
In our community, in Montana, it's pretty common.
Yeah. And stepping through those doors, you know, I've tried to make a precedent early on that everyone is welcome at this place.
Love it. Absolutely.
And I will not tolerate any bigotry at all. You know, unfortunately, some of these old roadhouses have a long history of rough and tumble boys coming on in there and want to start trouble. You know, early on, my staff was super gung-ho. They're like, hell yeah, let's go. And I've had a couple awkward conversations with patrons. And the last thing I ever want to do is say, okay, well, you don't have to come in here then. But, you know, for every bigot that is not welcome in my place, there's going to be another 20 people behind them that are supportive of the queer community and supportive of the BIPOC community. And I stand strong with my queer friends and my queer family. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been a beautiful journey being the co-director of Missoula Pride, and especially last year, with Zoe Zephyr and everything going on at the state, and the state trying to ban drag shows. And I've received bomb threats. I've received sniper threats. I've received all kinds of wild shit. Last year I had to work really closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I had undercover task force. I had police escorts. I had private security. I had all kinds of crazy shit. And for me, being, a straight white cis male, that's stressful to me. But when I'm sitting at the table with, my other coordinators that are part of the queer community, and seeing that impact, of somebody telling them that their life is, not justified, and they're really the ones receiving those threats. It's been a really, really powerful experience, and a really beautiful experience that I've been extremely, extremely grateful for. And it's been a learning experience for me, learning my P's and Q's, and learning, my seat at the table when to shut the fuck up.
Right.
There's some of those arguments or some of those hard discussions that we have at those tables regarding pride that is not my place to have input. It's for me to sit down and for me to listen.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me to learn. Those things that I've learned at that table, are things that will carry with me for the rest of my life. And especially into the hut, and everything else that I do. Everyone is welcome at the Rustic Hut. And if you don't think so, you don't need to come.
Exactly. Well, you've done some amazing work, and
thank you,
we're all very grateful.
Appreciate it
for what you've done.
I appreciate it.
Anything else you'd like to say, or?
No. Come out, support some live music.
Go see Jaden Decker if you get this one.
Go see Jaden Decker. Support the underdog. Support small business. Support local artists. Keep rooting for the underdog, because without you supporting the underdog, and that's not just me, that goes to every artist, musician, creative out there. Without you supporting them, it's a rough road. So keep supporting the underdog.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to
give
us all this information. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I seriously appreciate it.
Guys, check out all the links below. Make sure you're supporting. Make sure you're helping. Do some reviews if you can. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks,
Bye.
Guys.